Good afternoon, members. We have reached the appointed time and a quorum has been formed. Let us begin. I'd like to welcome all of you to the panel on development. As we are going to be using our electronic system today, please do not change seats after you are seated. Agenda item 1. Information papers issued since the last meeting. The Secretariat has not issued any meetings after the last meeting. Item number 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. Please refer to paper number CB bracket 1341/2024/01 and the list of follow-up actions CB bracket 1341/2024/02. The next meeting will be on April 23rd at 2:30 in the afternoon. The government has suggested to discuss these two items. First, adoption of advanced construction technologies. And second, Public Works Program item number 7870CL, site formation and infrastructure works for public housing development in LT1 Village, Wong Tai Sin. Do members agree to the discussion of these items next time? All right, thank you. Next item. Funding application for Tung North, Fanling North New Development Area site formation and engineering infrastructure works for remaining phase development. Let us now invite the administration to come in. As members, please take note that according to RP 83A, if there is direct or indirect pecuniary interest, please declare your interest before you speak. You may now press the speak button. I'd like to welcome Ms. Doris Ho, Permanent Secretary for Development, and other officials. The administration has prepared a PowerPoint presentation. Ms. Ho. Thank you, Chairman. Today, we are here to seek funding application for the Tung North, Fanling North New Development Area for the remaining phase development, and we'd like to also take views from members. We have already brought the application for the first phase funding previously to the LegCo, and my colleague will report on the progress of the first phase. For the remaining phase, it involves 32.5 billion, and my colleague will also take you through the PowerPoint to give you more details about the application. May I defer to Mr. Vic Yao? Thank you, Chairman. Our item already is now in the construction stage, and it's in the remaining phase. This is actually the first NDA in the Northern Metropolis to enter the construction stage. As you can see, we've already begun the first phase. So this is mainly a residential community. It will also be one of the areas in where government offices relocated from the urban areas will concentrate. The total development area of the NDA is 320 hectares. And there will be around a total of provision of 86,200 housing units, accommodating a population of about 227,000. As you can see, the gray part, in May 2019, we received fund approval from the Finance Committee to begin the first phase of development. And the yellow parts are actually the areas in which we are looking for funding, and we hope that we'll be able to begin that in mid-2025. in the first phase, which has already been begun, it's about 73 hectares in area with 3 private housing sites under construction and 1 completed at end 2022. There's also public house development, which we believe people can move in by 2026. And there's also a government office complex, and for the public space, it will be opened up for use to the public. So this also includes the northern part of the Fanling bypass. The proposed works for the remaining phase development comprise of about 247 hectares, which will provide 65,000 units, taking in an additional population of around 170,000. So this shows what will be used or constructed on the remaining phase. So there will be 26 private sites for housing development and 15 for public housing development, and we hope that the people, they will be able to move in by 2029. This also includes a government institutional community facilities and also rest areas. Other infrastructure include a bus depot and also a multi-story livestock farm. And we are going to have more details to show you in a while. Let us take a look at the photo montage. As I said, there would both be blue and green elements. So this is the area towards the north, about 2.4 hectares. And other than the park, there would also be a pool, a flood storage tank for use. So for the new land, we have indicated it with different colors to show how it will be used. At the top upper side, you would see some red lines outlining those areas. Originally, those were to be used for innovation and technology, but as a northern metropolis has witnessed some changes, the Santin Technopole will actually provide adequate space for IT development. Therefore, after consideration, the land provided for IT initially should be used for other purposes. So the red lines actually show the areas in which we're going to consider, which is the area near Ma Chonglong, and we will consider carefully better use. In the next few slides, I'd like to defer to Mr. Chung from the CEDD to tell us more about roads and infrastructure. Mr. Chung. Thank you. In Kutong North, we are going to build lands on Heiyi Road and 3 main roads and also other roads. So 5.5 kilometer for bikes, other footbridges and flyovers. So they will also include the construction of Fanling bypass, the widening of Fanling Highway, and flyover along Po Shek Wu Road to Fanling Highway, and also the eastern section of the Fanling bypass. So we have prepared some photo montages for these constructions. To the left, it's the flyover along Posheku Road to Fanling Highway to improve the connectivity and increase the capacity of the existing road network. And to the right, this will be the improved Fanling Highway. In the NTA want to build 6.5 kilometers of roads with around 2 kilometers or 6.5 kilometers of bike lane. We're also going to set up the western section of the Fanling bypass, which will be around 2 kilometers long. So you'll be able to see the proposed Fanling bypass. It will link up to the eastern section, so it will serve as the bypass connecting Fanling east and west, and also to increase the capacity of the road network. And there would also be new infrastructure in the remaining phase, including sewage system and flood attenuation facilities. We have also prepared this for your consideration. So there would be sewage pumps. So other than its basic function, we have also provided greening facilities. And towards the Fanling North, there would also be sewage systems and also flood systems. So let me talk about the land resumption. We have already begun the process. In January of this year, we're going to resume 112 hectares of private land and clear up 157 hectares of government land. 1,065 households will be affected, and there are also 313 operators will be affected, including those in brownfield operations such as in warehouse construction and recycling. We are doing our best to try to provide them with compensation. And for those who would like to relocate their operations, we will provide support. The Lands Department and its compensation and rehousing service teams will continue liaising with the relevant and affected households and operators. Once we receive funding, we would begin our construction. We believe that it could be completed by 2031. And we hope that the first population intake could be around 2029. So this shows the breakdown of the funding, and the total will come to about 32.5 billion, out of which 15% will be for site formation and engineering infrastructure, 40% on roads work. As Mr. Tung said, that would also include improvement of existing roads nearby to try to improve the capacity in the Fanling area. Other infrastructure included sewage and water supply would take 30%, and for other expenses on consultant and remuneration, it's around 15%. We would like to hear views from members, and we would apply to the FC for funding as soon as we get approval here. All right, it is time for members to speak. First, Dr. Chow Meng Kong, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan, Ms. Chen Yut Ming, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Mr. Michael Tian, Mr. Andrew Lam, and Dr. Wendy Hong. 4 minutes each. Dr. Chow, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Yao, for your very detailed introduction. Regarding Kutong North and Fanling North NDA development, the funding application, it's about 32.5 billion. I am in supportive of it, but I think some of the works could be prioritized. I noticed that there are some works for main roads. There are also some for minor roads and also bike lanes. Since our economic situation is quite stringent, I think we have to prioritize these works. I think the main roads would be more important than other smaller roads and also bike lanes. Regarding financing, I understand that the government it's more preferred to have the funding approval on block. But then I think we could do it step by step because there are different sites for private housing and public housing. I think we should improve the cash flow of the government, and so that I don't think it is necessary to approve the funding application en bloc. And also, I noticed that there will be over 1,000 households that will be affected, and among them, 800 odd have submitted application, and most of them have been approved. For the remaining 100 odd households that have not submitted application, I wonder what's the reason behind. Do you have chance to talk to them and understand the situation, and do you think you have enough time to handle the backlog? Permanent Secretaries. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Chow, for your question. Dr. Chow, you are correct regarding the road works. In addition to constructing new roads in the NDA, there will be different road works. For instance, Fanling Highway, Poshaku Road, flyover, etc. These will be this will also support the development of the NDA, but also the development of the Northern Metropolis. So, indeed, we will try our best to complete all these major works first before we start doing the works for the other roads. These works will be prioritized, will be put on our higher priority. Second, we plan to do this kind of planning in Santin, Inopol, and also in Laofao-Shan. For those areas, we will try to locate a relatively larger plot of land with multiple purposes. For Kutong North and Fanling North, it's basically for residential purposes. So we think that it is not appropriate to adopt this kind of phased approach. But then in other new areas in the Northern Metropolis, we will consider using those strategy. That is, do it in different phases. And also your question about the 100-odd households that have not submitted application for relocation. We will contact all households that will be affected. The first batch will have to move out in Q3 of 2024, so we would contact these households first. But we are also confident that for the remaining households, we'll be able to contact them either at the end of the year or by the beginning of next year. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan, 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I am a consultant for Zhongguo Loqiu. I'm very glad to see that in Kutong North and Fanling North, the development is very satisfactory, and we have come to the stage for funding application for the development of these new development areas. I've started getting involved in these projects. It has been very challenging, so I'm very pleased that we have eventually come to this stage. We have talked with the local people in the district. We have also attended different seminars and also discussion meetings. I understand that there are some cases that we have to follow up on. I have several questions for the administration. First, I'm very glad to hear that from the Permanent Secretary that there will be road works that will be beneficial not just to the NDA but also to the Northern Metropolis. Well, I was just going to ask about the In Gailang roundabout. This is a kind of traffic black spot in the Northern area. Since Po Shek Wu Road works will be included, I wonder why Kai Shek Land roundabout, how come you have not included this project in this plan? They are actually of similar importance and complexity. And I am in support of this funding application, but I hope that in the future meetings, for instance, in the Finance Committee or in the Public Works Subcommittee, we could discuss this in further details. For instance, we should be able to see the breakdowns for the funding applied. Next, we will be doing the site formation works of the remaining phases. That means the entire project of the northeastern area will be completed very soon. But there are several sites that have changed their original the purpose on this site. For those sites that have not been successful in land resumption or in a change of purpose, when do you plan to follow up on these sites? I'd like to know the timetable and also perhaps your plan for these remaining sites. Thank you, Mr. Lau, for your question. First, about Gailang roundabout, the improvement works, I would like to ask a colleague from CEDD to answer that. Second question, yes, in the future meeting of the Public Works Subcommittee, we will have a detailed breakdown for the cost, for the estimated cost. Not just what kind of major works it will cover. We will also try to compare this project with other similar projects so that members would have a better view of whether our estimated cost is reasonable. Third, for this present funding application on site formation and other works, it would include the remaining sites, for the private sites. When can we, depending on when we can complete the site formation works, we would then try to put these remaining sites onto the market in an orderly manner. Right, CEDD, regarding Gailang roundabout, Mr. Cheng. Thank you, Chair. For the Gailang roundabout, we have completed gazetting, and we are handling the objection views. I believe that we'll be able to finish this work in the short future. So we are working very hard to handle this case. I wonder whether this project could be included in the present project. Well, this is different. It's a project under another department, so it won't be included in the present project. Ms. Chen Yutming. Thank you, Chair. For Kutong North, Fanling North new development area is next to Taku Lang. I declare that I'm chairman of the Taku Lang Rural Committee. On the whole, I'm supportive of the funding application for the KTN and FLN new development area. I have two questions. First, about the finances. It's around $32.5 billion for the entire project. We understand that we are entering a difficult time in terms of the public cover. So I also understand that there will be bonds issued for the major projects. I wonder if Kutong North project will make use of these funds raised through issuing of bonds. And for future projects, how are you going to make use of the fund raised by bond issuance. My second question is about the engineering infrastructure works and also your strategies for extreme weather. I understand from the paper that the infrastructure works will try to improve the connectivity of the neighboring area and also will improve the sewage system and so forth. I think this is a good thing to do for the local people. But because there are different villages scattered around the area, I hope that the administration could actually pledge to the members of the public and especially to the people living in this area that after the completion of these projects, the environment and the area will be improved. And regarding extreme weather, we want to know how these new development areas can face extreme weather, and are there any special strategies or arrangements for these new areas to defend or protect themselves during extreme weather? Thank you, Ms. Chen, for your question. There are two questions that are related to extreme weather. And also the drainage or the sewage systems in the rural areas. I think I would defer this question to my colleagues in CEDD. For this funding application, actually, we have included some of the works for the improvement of the sewage system and also the drainage system of the rural areas. As mentioned before, we have some greenbelt and amenity facilities. These will there are water storage and also catchment areas. So these are planned for extreme weather or protection of the area under extreme weather. Regarding Tung North and Fanling North, we now are applying for funding of $32.5 billion. So this is the last funding application for the entire northern area project. We would make good use of the public money to carry out these works. So we will not there is no need for us to use the bond issued or the money raised from the bonds. Well, in the future, if there are more information about how the finances are to be arranged for future projects, we'll report to members in due course. CEDD, any supplement? The consultants for this project have worked out a kind of assessment for the improvement of the drainage system in this area. We are concerned about the extreme weather, especially those occurred in 2023. For the present design, we follow the revised plan for sewage design in 2022. But then after the major rainstorm in 2023, we started revising the sewage system and also the catchment areas and the service reservoirs capacity. We've also revitalized some riverways. So we understand that, or we've come to the conclusion that the present design would be able to cope with extreme weather, especially heavy rainstorm, such as the one occurred in 2023. Well, in addition to those systems in a new development area, after we have enhanced the entire sewage system, the neighboring area or the villages in the neighborhood would also be able to benefit from the improved system because we have new drainage system and also a better capacity catchment areas, so the entire neighborhood would be able to be improved. Mr. Kenneth Lau, thank you, Chair. This is the remaining phase of the project. and the northern metropolis will attract a lot of population after the project is completed. So I am in support of this project, and I hope that the government will go full steam in completing the remaining phases of the project.
There are about 1,065 households affected, and about 700 odd households will need to depart the area. And I am concerned with the impact, especially on the first group of households that will need to move out. How many out of the 700 households have already relocated? How many of them have received the compensation? And how many of them actually are not eligible for such compensation? Would you actually speed up the approval process to ensure that they will be rehoused early? I'd like to defer to Ms. Joanne Low. Thank you. For the 1,000 odd households affected, 898 households have already informed us that they would move out early, and 343 of them have already been rehoused. 11 households have received the cash compensation. 100 households, due to various reasons, for example, they only moved in after the registration freeze, or because they are not eligible due to certain reasons, they are not eligible, and there are about 400 households we are still in contact with to try to provide them with rehousing arrangements. And there are some households that have not yet applied for early relocation. We are going to contact all the affected households, and we hope that I will be able to reach out to all of them by next year. Any follow-up? Well, are you able to do that in time? Would you need to apply for additional resources, or is it just an issue with communication? Ms. Ho, thank you for your question. We are confident that we'll be able to handle all such matters. For ex-gratia cash compensation, we have already received the resources needed. We do have enough manpower at the lands department to handle all the rehousing matters, and we believe that we'll be able to clear the land in time. Mr. Michael Tan. Well, Permanent Secretary, we see that this project involves 2 stations. I don't want to talk about Fanling North today. Instead, I'd like to talk about Tung North. Basically, for railway station, then everybody will need to leave from Tung North. Tung North is mainly north, which means it stands for residential development, and some of the area is earmarked for IT development. When you came for your briefing, whether it be Lao Fao Shan or the Shenzhen Loop, you were actually having all these developments in dotted areas. Well, as I heard just now, you're not going to use the blue parts for IT anymore, but you haven't decided what you'll be using it for. So only when you look at Kutong North, so how many of the population out of the 60,000 would that be? DS. If we're talking about Kutong North, it's around 35 to 36,000 population. So 65,000 altogether, but Kutong North only accounts for 35,000. Are you accurate in your answer? Well, and you talk about remaining phase. Yes, for the remaining phase development, new additional units, it's 65,000 for both Kutong North and Fanling North. So Kutong North will provide 35,000, and for the rest it will be in Fanling North. So that answers your questions, right, Mr. Tian? All right, so 36,000. Oh, let's say it's 36,000. So this is the blue part, right? For the area at a loose end at the moment, it actually accounts for 1/3 of the total area. Well, as you haven't decided what purpose you're using it for, I'd really like to persuade you to actually make it into residential development as well. Because for the pink areas, that would be around 1/3 of the area. So that can house around 10,000 people. Well, don't underestimate it because it's very close to the Fanling golf course. How about we actually exchange it with you? We can build 10,000 units here. And if you resume the land at the golf course, you only build around 10,000 units as well. The traffic there isn't as convenient, which is different from here because we're right next to the railway station here. So, Mr. Tian, you're asking whether you could build more residential units at Kutong North. Well, the marked areas. Well, you have asked your question. Yes. Thank you for your question. Well, indeed, for the area marked originally for INT related use, we are going to review it. But as to what purpose we're going to use the land for, Kutong North is a predominantly residential community. There is already a large community of residences there, and we were asked whether it would bring job opportunities so that those living in this area will not need to find jobs elsewhere. So there have been some comments on that. We would take note of Mr. Tian's suggestions and will make a comprehensive review and come to a decision by the end of the year. Thank you very much. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. Well, this is like the second phase. Under the current economic circumstances, many people are afraid that there are not enough reserves. Is the government worried about that as well? Because in the past, many NDAs were built in gradual phases. So whilst the first batch of residents were moving in, the other areas were being constructed. Well, today you're applying for funding for development. I want to make sure that you are going to improve the transport interchanges in the Tung area. Well, people are gradually moving in, and these would become major problems if you do not do anything about it. Tung is a bit better because the area revolves around a future MTR station. But then for Fanling North, it connects to original railway, and maybe there wouldn't be such a smooth connection. Therefore, I would like to know, for residents going to the railway station in Fanling North, how would their experiences be? P.S. Thank you for your 2 questions. First of all, I don't think you should be overly anxious about inadequate resources. The remaining phase for the Tung North and Fanling North is our last funding application in this NDA. The Financial Secretary has said that we have already prioritized our items, and this item under the Northern Metropolis should adhere closely to the development timetable. When we bring this application up to the PWSC and FC and we receive approval, then we would push forward in our plan. So how would those living in Fanling North reach the MTR station? There is a certain distance, and it's not a walkable distance. Therefore, in Fanling North, in the private housing development and public housing development, we have requested public transportation interchanges in the future. Our residents will be able to take public transportation to the MTR. And this would help us move people from Fanling North to the MTR. Next, Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, Chairman. Tung North, Fanling North is the first NDA in the Northern Metropolis, and I'm in support of the funding. However, I have a couple of questions. One is on brownfield operations. In paragraph 18 of the annex, it said that there are 258 brownfield operations being affected, and there have been temporary permits for them to operate until the relevant sites are required for works. 200 odd brownfield operations affected. So where have they been? Have they closed down? Or because the short-term tenancy is only for very few operators. So do you actually have an alternative option for these brownfield operations? We do see traditional industries there, such as the soy sauce plant. There's made in Hong Kong soy sauce and lotus paste, etc. Well, I agree that non-environmentally friendly industries should be put out of business, but these traditional industries are of huge value. If they have to move out, they may need to suspend operations, and they won't be able to resume operations. This year, we're going to begin our land resumption process. And this month, we have just started seeking tender for the multi-story building. have you considered moving these industries into multi-story buildings? And secondly, compared to the Development Bureau's 2019 plans, we have seen that the GFA has already been increased to 7.8. So there has been some improvements made, and we are able to accommodate more residents. So from the 100,000 residents, we can now accommodate over 200,000. And in the old plan, there are only 40,000 job opportunities, but now today there is about 53,000. So that's a 30% increase. But then in 2019, we see that for today, there's only 545,000 square meters for economic development. So that's actually a decrease from 2019. So can you share with us the reasons behind that?
Thank you for your two questions. First of all, about the brownfield operators, how we're going to provide assistance to them. Yes, we understand that there are some traditional businesses, for instance, War Garden. We are actually helping them because the operator has already identified another piece of land in the new territories. So we are providing assistance to this operator and trying to help him relocate to that new site. As regards whether we would find some existing industrial buildings to relocate them in the meantime. Well, the government is now providing different kind of assistance, but then this is not included. If it's for brownfield operators, as long as it does not affect the progress of the works, we will try our best to let them remain on the site so that they would be given more time to look for relocation land or site. On the other hand, the development bureaus and also all the departments under the development bureaus will try our best to look for alternative site for them to resume their operations on the new site. We are providing all sorts of helps we could. The second question regarding the working population, now it's 53,000. But when compared to the floor area, compared to the floor area available a few years ago, it seems that there is a shrinkage of the floor area. Well, the reason behind is that the original floor areas designed for INT has been changed to residential purposes. So that's why there is a reduction of the floor area for commercial use. But if we look at the area from a macro view, actually in the neighboring site, it's a Sentin Technopole. So Innopole, Sentin. So when it's completed, there will be about 160,000 jobs provided in that area. So it is very close to this NDA. We believe that there will be ample employment opportunities for the residents in this area. Next, Mr. Yu Park Leung. Thank you, Chairman. I have two questions as well. First, from the paper, I noticed that there will be 37 hectare conservation park that will be completed very soon. I think it's a good thing because it should be very attractive. It's a kind of conservation ground. When will it be formally opened? And before its formal opening, can we councillors be invited to have a visit prior to its formal opening? Second, it's about well, this new area, actually I visited Tung last year towards the end of last year, and I noticed that there are a lot of ancient, a lot of heritage, also traditional site for traditional operations. For instance, manufacturing of mooncakes and also traditional food and so forth. Actually, there are value in these operations. I understand on the one hand that we have to develop new sites and new areas. On the other hand, I think we should try to preserve this kind of traditional works. And can we perhaps make it a kind of a merge between something new and something old? We do have some historical sites there. We could actually preserve this kind of historical sites so that people have a stronger sense of belonging to this area. And this would be an area with a new buildings and new developments. But on the other hand, we do preserve our tradition. I think that would be good. Thank you for your questions. First, about Longyun Park, the wetland park. The work it's towards its end, so we are now opening up for schools and also special organizations to visit the wetland park. So if chairman allows, we could arrange for a site visit for the councillors, the members to visit that park. And second, in the new development area, or in the neighboring sites, if there are historical sites and also things that is worth preserving, we of course would try our best to see how it could blend into our development plan so that they could be preserved. As member just mentioned, it is very important for us to try to preserve these sites, and if we find that there are good suggestions, we would take into account and consider those suggestions. Thank you very much for your suggestion. Yes, we noticed that there are some buildings on these historical sites. Though it is not being ranked yet. So in a sense, it's kind of vacated, and it's I hope that in the future we could not just preserve it, but also revitalize it so that we could give it a second life in the district. All right, your suggestion is very clear. Next, Mr. Louis Long. Thank you, Chair. We understand that the administration at the end of last year have made use of the revised version of the development plan for traditional districts, contacted owners of different sites on this area in Kutong North and Fanling North, but then because both the parties could not agree on the resumption price. So in the end, the site have to be resumed. I would like to ask the government plan. First, you have to give out compensation for the landowners, and you cannot have income from the land. So would there be increased costs because of that? Second question is related. After resuming the land, and if you're going to make developments on these land, and then you can't have money returned from land premium, well, how does this kind of land affect your development plan on these two areas in KT North and Fanling North? Thank you for your questions. First, for the 6 applications that have failed, how does it affect the cash flow of the short-term cash flow of the government? We actually have not conducted evaluation on this, But actually, we have been very consistent. Well, at first, we really hope that the 6 applications could be successful. We really hope that we could have a chance to make use of the private land ability to expedite the development of this new development area. However, because of the negotiation on the land prices, eventually it's regrettable that we have not been able to reach a consensus and or written agreement. So according to the government rules, government will then resume the land, and then we will do site formation on our own. And then when in due course we will put these land to the market again. Well, even though we cannot make use of the market force on this instance, we actually have other contingency plan. So if the application, our funding application is supported by members, we'll try our best to commence the works, the site formation works ASAP. After completion of the site formation project, then it will depend on the situation. Then we will then consider how we could turn these pieces of land or when these 6 different plots of land could be put onto the market. We would try to catch up with the time that have been lost. Any follow-up question? Well, Chairman, from the explanation of the Permanent Secretary, my understanding is that these have not affected the progress of the works project. Is that so? Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Next is my question time, and then Mr. Andrew Lam, second round. Since we don't have other members who have pressed the speaking button, that will be the last two. We will be the last 2 person putting questions. I am also concerned about the business operators that will be affected by the project. As mentioned on the paper, there are about 300 odd operators affected, and about 250 odd are involved in brown work operation. The administration has provided support to them, and over 20 of the operators have successfully found site for relocation, and there are about 20 hectares involved. Well, that means you have helped the major operators to relocate themselves and to continue with the operation. Oh, that is a good thing. But then for the remaining 20 hectares, there are quite a lot of smaller scale operators. Can the administration work harder to help them? For instance, because on this plot of land, there are some areas that have not been designated any special use. For instance, those originally planned for INT. Could you perhaps try to help these brownfield operators and see if they could be classified into different businesses, and then find the kind of specified area, for instance, in multi-story industrial buildings, in those specified industrial parks, so as that they could be relocated and resume their operation. In your paper, you mentioned that there will be about 1 hectare of land that will be reserved for multi-story operation sites, for instance, for poultry industry. I support this suggestion. This is a very good policy. Can this plan be expanded a little bit so that other operators could also be relocated there? For instance, the operator of traditional manufacturing of traditional food, and can we perhaps revitalize their businesses in this way? Thank you, Chairman, for your suggestion. Yes, we could consider further. As mentioned before, for these 2 areas, KTN and FTN, there are some plot of lands the purposes of which have been changed in recent years. For instance, in Fanling North, there is it's like a belt shape. On the upper part of the belt, there is a plot, a yellow plot, about 5 hectare in yellow. At first, we plan to use it for government purposes. Now we change its purpose and leave it for logistics operation. There could be multi-story buildings constructed there, and if suitable, we could actually relocate the brownfield operators into these multi-story buildings. There are also other plots that we would start reviewing their purposes, and we would in the process of which consider Chairman's view on that. If traffic allows, and for instance, if our assessment shows that it is feasible, we could actually consider taking that view in. Yes, thank you very much for your positive response. We are not just to resolve the housing problem of people. We should also consider the operators, the business operators, because there are different kinds of business operators on these sites, and many of which are worth preserving. For instance, manufacturing of traditional food, etc. So I think we should try our best to help them, for instance, to enhance their management, and they could be relocated in multi-story buildings. For instance, you mentioned about the poultry farm in multi-story buildings. I think that's a good idea. If we have land in the new territories, and if it's possible, we could actually do better to preserve our traditional businesses so that they can continue to with their operations and also be enhanced. Thank you.
Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. The heritage sites and sites of archaeological interest have already been mentioned by other members. I am full support of their suggestions, but I also notice that on paper we really do not see much about these monuments. There's only a mention of in Shangshui Wasan. I'm sure that for those graded items, that's already handled. But then in Kutong North, on the day when you started the planning, what kind of assessment did you make? Would there be a further assessment to ensure that there wouldn't be any historic items being dug out on the day of construction? I think we should allocate resources for preliminary assessment to prevent delays in the construction process. I, of course, respect the judgment made by the professionals, but then I still would like the administration to take note of this. P.S. Well, I don't have the information on hand right now, but when we worked on planning, we did consider any heritage sites that may be in the area. We could provide you with more information in writing later on. You mentioned Washan, which was already mentioned in the paper. There are also other areas, for example, Feng Kong, Fu Dei Ao East, and Ho Shui Heng. So these would also be assessed at the time of construction. We want to make sure that we will not affect anything that is of monumental value, and for those that are already declared monuments, we would ensure that we would identify the potential and that we would not affect the works and also the heritage site. We will provide more information in writing. All right, thank you. So all members have spoken, and members seem to be in support of the paper with many suggestions and recommendations made. I believe that we're in support of the administration submitting this paper for approval at the PWSC. I would like to ask the administration to make sure to provide all the details we requested for before submitting it to the PWSC. The PWSC will need this information for its assessment. I'd like to thank the administration for attending, and now let's move on to the next agenda item. The next agenda item is item number 4, proposed conversion of a supernumerary D1 post, Chief Building Surveyor, Chief Structural Engineer, into a permanent post in the Buildings Department. The relevant papers have already been uploaded. I'd like to now invite the administration to come in. Ms. Doris Ho will continue to stay. And we also have Director of Buildings, Ms. Clarice Yu, and other colleagues from the Development Bureau and from the Buildings Department. For those of you who wish to ask questions, please indicate your wish to speak. P.S. Would you like to first make an introduction? Yes, thank you. Now, this paper seeks members' views as there is actually a time-limited supernumerary post, a D1 post. We actually want to convert it into a permanent post in the Buildings Department. A bit of background information. This supernumerary post began in 2012 when the LegCo approved for a limit of 10 years. So this person mainly dealt with unauthorized building works in the village houses. And when we wanted to extend this post, many members actually were of the view that a permanent post would be much better because enforcement should be done on a frequent basis. It is proposed that the government consider the strategy against the new BWs in the new territories exempted houses, and so it was actually extended up to this year. However, we believe that there is still a need to actually convert this post into a permanent post so that this person can lead of 38 people to be in charge of work such as stepping up enforcement against UBWs in new territories exempted houses. And this post will also take on another responsibility because with the development of the northern metropolis, there would also be increase of work. And so there would be a heavier work burden on this post. In the past few years, the team at the Buildings Department has already stepped up its enforcement on new territories exempted houses. You would see from the paper that there's been an increase in their workload, including completing going through about 5,000 new territories exempted houses and to identify unauthorized building works, especially those of immediate danger, and to actually set up first round targets to be enforced. Every year they will need to go through 6,000 reports by residents, and you have seen in the number of complaints increasing over the years. The team will also be in charge of ensuring that new UBWs will not exist. When they see UBWs, we have seen that there have been a decreasing number in the past few years. This reflects that our work has been effective, and villagers, when building their village houses, will not include UBWs in their structure. In the future, well, according to estimates, in the new territories, there are about 99,000 such village houses. The team at the Buildings Department has already checked around 50,000 houses, and there's still around 43,000 houses that remain to be inspected. Therefore, the team in future will need to continue with this work. We hope that under the guidance of this new post and with the support of technology, procedures could be streamlined and the 2,900 FRTs could be reduced to completion in 7 years. So what do I mean by first round targets? For example, on village houses, they can only build 3 stories, but then they have built above 3 stories. So these would be targeted as FRTs. And for a D1 post, the Buildings Department will need to review their work. Enforcement work, of course, should be continuous. Enforcement in the urban areas is the responsibility of permanent posts. And working on enforcement for village houses is even more challenging because it's spread over a large area. And it's actually quite a huge challenge for our colleagues. We believe that a D1 post being permanent would be appropriate. This post will also need to take up new work. When our northern metropolis becomes more mature, we would see more and more new buildings. In future, with the full development, there would be 500,000 additional residential buildings, and there would be more enforcement work for this post. So this post would also need to take up enforcement work in buildings other than village houses. So we believe that with a permanent post, this post can also help shoulder part of the operations in the area. I'd now like to defer to Mr. Albert Tam from the Buildings Department, who would give us more details on the work of this permanent post and the reasons behind an application for a permanent post.
Thank you, Chairman. The Buildings Department has major policies in enforcement of unauthorized buildings works in the new territories. We try to protect and ensure building safety and public safety. We try to enforce law on these UWBs, but UBWs, we also try to categorize them into different types so that we can do it step by step. And first, we have to build up the information pool about the existing UBS. Second, we will try to prioritize the works and also streamline the procedures. Third, we have to step up with our inspection and also follow up and enforcement procedures on these UBWs. We also have to set up key performance indicators on these works. For the proposed posts, if it's turned or converted into a permanent post, this person would be responsible to continue to inspect the enforcement work on the UBWs in the new territories. We have to continue to improve the enforcement work. We will also have to expedite the first round targets in handling those buildings under the first round targets. We also have to formulate feasible plans to carry out enforcement works step by step. We also have to step up with the prosecution work on the UBWs and also step up with the KPI. There are also buildings that are not NTEH. We have to make sure that there are building safety. We have to prevent proliferation of new UBWs. We also have to step up with publicity and education work so that people will understand that these are not legal, and also there will be serious consequences for new UBWs. For the enforcement strategy, it's as follows. First, if it constitutes immediate danger, we will carry out immediate enforcement action. And if there are new UBWs or UBWs that are being constructed, we will also carry out immediate enforcement. For other types, there will be progressive enforcement action. For those under first round target, we would try to do it step by step. And for those non-first round targets, for instance, there are existing UBWs that have not been reported under the reporting scheme. Or also, there are some that have reported under the reporting scheme, and the owner has to conduct inspection every 5 years and provide certification. For these, we will not carry out any enforcement action in the meantime. There are also some small UBWs. We will try to perhaps treat it as a kind of a green or amenity facilities that enforcement would not be necessary. What are those first round targets? Well, for instance, there are some NTEH that use reinforced concrete on the rooftop, or the one on the right They have additional space, enclosed construction over 50% of the area. So these will be under the first round targets. And this is a serious case. For this NTEH, there is a 2,000 square feet in area, and it's 5-story high. And under the effort of our colleagues, it's now converted into 3-story. And now it's in compliance with our law. For the first round targets, what are those examples? We'll give you some examples under the first round targets. There are some ground floor extension. We would conduct progressive enforcement action. We would have to consider a future enforcement strategy. For the green and amenity facilities, GAFs, in order to strike a balance between building security and also the requirements of the local residents, we would allow this kind of GAFs so that that could improve their household environment. We heard the views of the local residents, so we have expanded the GAF list from 20 to 28 items. Regarding the enforcement result, this is some numbers. When we first started enforcement, you can see that this is our performance. We have turned one-fold or 5-fold in our enforcement results. For instance, the demolition of UBWs, there is an increase of 488%. Public report, it has increased by 341%, and also prosecution over 152%. And for the large-scale operations, there is an increase of 95%. And on the recommendation of the Ombudsman, we have conducted a territory-wide assessment. We estimate that there are about 99,000 NTEH at present. And among them, about 56,200 have been inspected. So there is about 2,900 FRTs that needs enforcement. The enforcement have to be carried out on, and there are about 166,700 non-FRTs. So we need to formulate more feasible plans in order to handle these remaining cases. How can we expedite our work? Every year there is an annual average of about 4,787 houses inspected every year. It will be increased to 6,500. We will try to streamline our inspection procedure and also make use of technologies such as drone and photogrammetry in order to step up with our inspection. And we believe that we'll be able to shorten our work from 10 years to 7 years. That is by 2030. We would try to formulate more practical and feasible plan. As mentioned, there are 166,000 odd non-FRTs, so we will carry out a risk-based approach. First of all, we will handle the UBWs that constitute immediate or imminent dangers. For instance, the enclosed balcony or the extension on the ground, or also the construction on the rooftop. We would also need to step up with our enforcement work so that we could remove these UBWs ASAP. Well, upon expiry of the removal notice, we will issue orders or warning letters to the owner. We would For some serious cases, we would step up with publicity so that people would know the consequences for non-compliant. And also, the buildings department is reviewing buildings ordinance with the hope to streamlining the prosecution process and also lowering the prosecution threshold. For new UBWs, there are some numbers here. As we can see, at first, upon the establishment of our section, the public reports is 2,829. And recently, there is an increase of 22%. So it's a total of 618 report. We believe that our measures is taking effect because with continued enforcement and publicity, the local residents understand the consequences, and there are less number of UBWs in the area. We also see that for new buildings, there are less UBWs. We have set down some KPIs for our future work. For issuance of removal orders, we plan to increase it by 84%. We also aim to increase prosecution orders by 92%. For handling of report cases, we aim to improve it by 28%, and also for large-scale operations, there will be a 36% of increase. Well, as mentioned just now, with the completion of the Northern Metropolis, there will be 400,000 odd residential units available in the market, and also on the newly developed land, there will be 500,000 more residential units available. These are the 6 different groups that are responsible for the enforcement and inspection works in the respective areas. For the Section CC group, responsible for the northern part. For the new buildings in the northern metropolis, we believe that there will be increased workload. So the Group C colleagues will not be able to take up additional work in the new area. So we have to consider how the work could be spread out, or our conclusion is that the workload will increase. And we also have to revise the existing measures. And also, this work is very complex, and especially in the new territories, the inspection and enforcement work is also very challenging. So we believe that there should be a designated staff, especially at the directorate proposed to lead the group. That will be that will help our work. Thank you. It's a question time now. Please press the button. The first one is Mr. Lau Kwok Fan. 4 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I commend the work of the building department. When I look at the building situation in the new territories, of course, we understand that there are a lot of historical reasons for the existence of different types of houses in the new territories. And I understand that there is a heavy workload. You mentioned that another reason for the need of such posts is because of the Northern Metropolis, the workload brought about by the completion of the Northern Metropolis. Yes, I agree. There will be 500,000 additional units available in the Northern Metropolis. However, they are not all residential units, or not all public housing units. And also, they will not be available all in one go. So it will be completed step by step in the coming 5 years. So is it really necessary for you to have this post right now? Because if you use Northern Metropolis as one of the reasons, then I think it's premature, because the housing units are not all available right now. It will be available step by step. And also, You mentioned that in addition to law enforcement, you will try to formulate pragmatic and also feasible measures to handle the work on UBWs. I agree that this is the right way to go. Of course, we have to understand the historical background of these problems. You mentioned that there will be GAFs, green and amenity facilities. So I want to know more about your thought on that. Will you consider further expanding the GAF list? And also, for instance, there are perhaps some small parks built on the ground. They may not pose immediate danger. Could you perhaps include them under the GAF list so that they will not need to be demolished or removed? And also regarding the reporting scheme, some people are worried about the consequences of reporting their UBWs. Now that 5 years have gone, people notice that it is not that scary. After reporting to the administration, you could perhaps actually, you would be allowed to keep your small-scale UBWs after you have reported it. So will you perhaps introduce another round of reporting now that you have inspected about 56,000, but then it's still there are a lot more that have not been inspected or reported? Would you consider the second round of reporting scheme since that you are now developing the Northern Metropolis? Perhaps it's about time to have another round of reportings so that the NT residents would come up with their existing UBWs.
I'd also like to talk about the certification. I'm not sure whether you could also use that at the buildings department so that you'll be able to deploy better your manpower. 3 questions. Thank you. DS. Thank you for your question. Well, is it too early to actually ask for a permanent post? We do not believe so. But what you said actually is similar to our thoughts. In future, one of the responsibilities of this post will have to handle the new buildings in the Northern Metropolis. The Northern Metropolis is developing by the day. With a certain number of buildings being completed, we are talking about a few years later. We have considered this when this permanent post gets on board. This person will be responsible mainly for enforcement action in the village houses. Albert, can you go back to slide number 10? In the next few years, work will be focused on NTEH. One of the priorities is to inspect the remaining FRTs which are spread across 40,000 village houses because there are a few hundred villages in New Territories. We have discussed how to speed up the process. Even by adopting more technology, drones, and inviting consultants, they're only able to speed it up to 7 years instead of 10 years. So the work will become very important. There's another figure down here, which is 166,700. These are actually the non-FRTs. But this is also on the list of our work. Well, you may think this figure very astronomical. How can we actually inspect these 166,000 UBWs? Mr. Lau has thought about changing it to GAFs, but there is still a limit, because what do you mean by green and amenity facilities? Albert, can you go back to slide number 8? These are some examples of what we define as small-scale GAFs. For example, clothes rack or a lightweight canopy. These are not large-scale works and will not pose immediate danger to villagers, and these are actually essential needs of villagers. Therefore, we can actually put these under GAFs and not consider them as UBWs. But then there is a limit to that. What about those structures that were built from the ground? These are not what we are doing at the moment. Mr. Lau also mentioned the reporting scheme. There is a time limit which has been concluded 10 years ago. We need to weigh the pros and cons. Some people believe that we are not fair. There was a time limit for the reporting scheme, but now you're opening up again. On the other hand, Mr. Lau has reminded us that to handle UBWs, we must be pragmatic. We have considered both sides. We can try to consider it, but at this time, we can't really be sure that this is a feasible way. Oh, please be brief. You've already spoken for 9 minutes. Oh, I apologize. But this permanent post will be responsible for the 166,700 non-FRTs and to try to handle it in a pragmatic manner. So this is something to be reviewed. Mr. Andrew Lam, thank you. In the past, whenever the topic of UBWs is raised, there is a lot of discussion. I believe that a lot of work still needs to be done to suppress UBWs. I understand the government is trying to review it, but then frontline staff in the application of knowledge may not be entirely coordinated. At the moment, you're proposing a conversion of a supernumerary post into a permanent post. I hope that person will not just be putting out fires. This post should play a more active role in presenting a clearer message, both internally and externally, on the enforcement action. Oh, that is my hope and expectation. I'm not sure whether it could be done. I hope that the administration can have an answer for that. P.S. Thank you for your suggestion. the main direction of the enforcement work against NTEH is still the same, but we can improve it, especially in how we handle 166,700 non-FRTs. We hope that the future permanent posts can formulate a strategy and prioritize UBWs with immediate danger. And that would constitute a serious legal contravention. With inadequate manpower, we can only focus our resources on those with higher and immediate danger. We must enforce what we do to show the message from the government. This is what we will focus in the future. Mr. Lam mentioned new NBWs. We can actually suppress new UBWs as we have been doing this in our existing strategy. We would immediately, when we receive complaints and reports, to inspect it within 48 hours, because for new MBWs, we would send out staff to inspect it and then issue a notice for removal immediately. We will continue on such work. Mr. Louis Long. Thank you, Chairman. I believe the UBW's enforcement action is taking place, and the current supernumerary D1 post is responsible for such work. What are some of the advantages of converting the supernumerary post into a permanent post? What is something not being done at the moment that will be done with a permanent post? Thank you, Mr. Long, for your question. Although we do have a supernumerary post at the moment, that person is working on taking action against UBWs and NTEHs, but that post can only handle certain matters at the moment. If you remember the PPT, there's a number that's 2,900, another number of 160,000. In the past, they've mainly been dealing with the FRTs. That means when village houses exceed 3 stories, then these would constitute serious legal interventions and pose high public safety risks. Therefore, they would issue removal orders immediately. But then, when the threat to the public is not high, yet it is still a contravention. Let's say there is a story built out from the ground level. The safety risk may not be high, but it is still a serious contravention. So we do have ways to handle that at the moment, because the 200,000 figure refers to these. How do we, in a reasonable time limit, handle the 16,700 UBWs? Secondly, enforcement action is a continuous progress. The Buildings Department has 6 teams, mainly in charge of enforcement action within the urban areas. All the D1 posts in those teams are permanent posts because they are taking enforcement action. But at the village houses, we are actually only a time limited role. Would it send the wrong message to people that the government is not very determined in making changes to that? 2 years ago, when we wanted to extend this post, some members agree and supported this post to become permanent. They just asked us to review the post and then come back to the LegCo. Now that we have completed the review, our conclusion is that we do need a permanent post. Ms. Lam, I'm sorry, I would like to add to that very brief. I support this post conversion. I just hope that you will not leave me with the impression that when it is a supernumerary post, the post is not as efficient. We hope that these people working at those posts would be consistently efficient in their jobs.
Ms. Lam Soo-wei, thank you, Chair. Regarding this D1 post of CBS or CSE, I'm thinking whether it is necessary. D1 posts every month about $159,000 salary. Well, we are facing a very stringent economic situation. So is it reasonable for us to convert this position from supernumerary post to a permanent post? I understand that this post would be to oversee and monitor the enforcement work, but is it necessary for that person to be holding a permanent post in order to carry out those responsibilities? Well, those questions has just been raised by Mr. Lau. Or Mr. Lung, raised by Mr. Louis Lung. Are you repeating the question, or are you thinking that the administration has not fully answered that question? Right, I think I'm not convinced yet. So my question is it really necessary to convert it into a permanent post? Yes, I do understand that we need a lot of manpower to carry out enforcement work in order to eradicate UBWs in the NTEH. I think I need more supportive data or reasons. You also mentioned that the enforcement efficiency could be enhanced. I hope that the administration could give us some plan, a timetable, and also evaluation strategies. Well, I think this is not directly related to whether the government is facing economic stringency. Well, they are just asking to convert the existing post into a permanent one. Well, okay, Permanent Secretary, please. All right, let me try to explain once again. Please go back to slide. Yes, that slide with the numbers. All right. From here, it's explanatory. It shows why there is a long-term need for such a permanent holder. Mr. Leung has mentioned it very correctly. Of course, the person holding this post should conduct his or her work effectively, be it a permanent post or supernumerary post. Well, from this slide, you could see that in the entire new territories, there are about 99,000 NTEH. And among them, the building department has inspected 56,000 odd houses, and remaining, there are about 40,000 odd NTEH remaining. So among them, we we assessed that there would be around 2,900 FRTs among this lot. So the proposed permanent post holder would have to lead his team to carry out inspection on these 42,000 NTEH. So we expected he would need about 7 years in order to complete inspection of this 42,000 odd NTEH. There are also some uncompleted work that is for the non-FRTs. We estimate that there are about 166,000 non-FRTs. We have to carry out inspection on these. So we want to find a pragmatic way to handle these 166,700 non-FRTs. And UBW is not reported. So this post holder, if it's a permanent post, he would be a very experienced professional. He would have strong leadership. He will then have to devise or to formulate a pragmatic measure to complete the work, the inspection work of this 166,000 odd non-FRTs, and UBWs are not reported. So while he is handling the 2,900 FRTs, he also have to inspect the remaining backlog of 166,000 odd non-FRTs. And as mentioned, in the buildings department, we have 6 sections altogether carrying out enforcement actions in the entire of Hong Kong. But why is it that in the new territories we have only a time limit supernumerary post holder to carry out this enforcement and inspection work in the new territories? It might send out a wrong message to the general public, saying that perhaps the government is not committed to carry out this work in the new territories. So it's not very desirable. And also, as mentioned about 2 years ago, when we applied to extend this post, some members thought that we should actually turn this post into a permanent post. But then at that time, the members asked us to conduct a more detailed review. Yes, the permanent secretary talked about that 2 years ago. They brought this post to the LegCo, and there were some members who thought that this position should be turned permanent. Actually, one of these members was me, because I actually expressed my view at that time, saying that this is actually a long-term problem and it's a kind of dynamic problem. It changes all the time. So we actually need a permanent post holder to lead his team to tackle these problems. There might be new problems coming up, and there might be new situations arising, and there would be new village houses built. So the work is ongoing, and there's heavy workload, and this is not the problem is really huge, and it cannot be overcome entirely within a few years' time. So at that time, 2 years ago, I already expressed my views that this position should be turned permanent. Of course, there are other members, including Mr. Leung, who pointed out that if it's a permanent post, we hope that there would be a better kind of long-term planning and also in-depth investigation into how we could eradicate this problem altogether. For instance, there might be some facilities that could be turned acceptable, for instance, if they are included in the GAF list. So then it would be a kind of measures that is more welcomed by the local residents in the new territories. I think we have spent quite a lot of time explaining the reasons behind this application, and also we have repeated questions coming up. So I've already let the administration have more time to explain their situation. And members have already raised their questions. So I'd like to ask if you all would support to turn this paper to the establishment subcommittee for further consideration. Yes, we all agree. Okay, thank you very much. This is the end of this agenda item, and thank you very much for your attendance. Next item, AOB. We do not have other business. This is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.